In the sun-dappled streets of a small town, a proud mother showed off her newborn son. Upon noticing his lucky birthmark, townsfolk predicted he would marry a princess. But soon these rumors reached the ears of the wicked king. Enraged, the king stole the child away and sent him hurtling down the river. But the infant's luck proved greater than the king's plan. Years later, the king was traveling his realm when he spotted a strapping young man with an uncanny birthmark. After confirming the child's origins, the sly king entrusted the boy with a letter for the queen. The youth eagerly set out to deliver the message, not knowing he was carrying his own death sentence. That night, roaming bandits stumbled upon his camp. Yet when they read the brutal letter, they were filled with pity. Deciding to make trouble for the king instead, they scribbled a new note. As soon as the youth arrived at the palace, he locked eyes with the princess. The two felt destined for each other. And when the queen read that the king approved this union, she joyfully organized a whirlwind wedding. When the king returned, he was furious. But he couldn't execute his daughter's beloved without reason, so he devised a diabolical trial. He ordered the youth to travel to hell itself and return with 3 golden hairs freshly plucked from the devil's head. Only upon succeeding could he return to his bride. The youth searched across the land for the entrance to hell until he finally reached an eerie village. Here he saw some villagers gathered around a well. They closed in on the youth, refusing to let him pass until he answered their question. Why was the well dry? The youth replied, "I will answer when I return." They directed him further into town, where he came across another set of villagers contemplating a gnarled tree. They refused to let him pass until he answered their question. Why was the tree barren? Again, the youth responded, "I will answer when I return." These villagers guided him to the dock where an elderly ferryman awaited. As he paddled through the black water, the ferryman rasped a third question. "How can I escape my interminable task?" Once more, the youth promised, "I will answer when I return." At last, they reached a hut sinking into the swampy banks of hell. Reluctantly, the youth knocked on the rotting door. The devil's grandmother answered his call. She was known to help some visiting souls and harm others. The youth had just finished his story when they heard the devil's footsteps. Without warning, the boy's world appeared to shrink. The devil's grandmother lifted him into the folds of her sleeve and welcomed her grandson. The old woman set to work, lavishing the devil with food and drink. When he fell asleep, she deftly plucked 3 gleaming hairs from his head. With each plucked hair, the devil briefly awoke and complained about his dreams, full of nearby villagers and their problems. The next morning, the youth departed, armed with 3 golden hairs and 3 pieces of information. He shared the devil's first dream with the ferryman. If the boatman could hand his oars to a willing passenger, he would be free from his task. Back at the village, the youth declared that there was a mouse gnawing at the root of the tree and an enormous toad blocking the well. The villagers rewarded him handsomely for his help. Back from his journey, the youth thrust the devil's hairs at the king, but his greedy father-in-law only had eyes for the gold. The sly youth told the king that even greater wealth awaited him across the river. Immediately, the king hastened to the riverbank. Eager to claim his riches, he held out his hands impatiently to the grinning ferryman, who happily handed over his oars. For more love-fueled journeys to the underworld, follow Orpheus on his quest to bring back Eurydice.